that there are some laws that Congress can make that in a practical sense do limit the freedom of speech. No one doubts, for example, that if an individual was poised with a microphone in his mouth to divulge America's nuclear secrets, that he could be stopped without violating the First Amendment. Justice Holmes used the great phrase, "Nobody has a right to shout fire in a crowded theater," which is worth remembering this evening. As that last example, I suppose, shows, there are legally, constitutionally recognized values that can be in conflict with each other. They both can't win all the way, all the time. And I mean, the paradigm examples are the guarantees of liberty and equality. If I exercise my liberty to the greatest possible extent, I can suppress any, the rights of a lot of people. An example that probably a lot of us have in our minds a lot is the Supreme Court's decision the year after I stepped down on political campaign contributions by corporations, the so-called Citizens United decision. Should corporations in effect be subject to the limitations on political expenditures that they were and in fact had been subject to for a century? There was a play of constitutional values going on there. If the Supreme Court took a liberty model, the liberty model of free expression was, yeah, corporations can spend all the money they want to in the world. If they took an equality model, they would say there's got to be the possibility of a limitation on corporations so that they do not drown out other speech. The Supreme Court and Citizens United went with the liberty model. But these kinds of conflicts in values are simply part of the Constitution, and you can't say that you can solve them simply by reading fairly the text, because if you read fairly the text, you'd have to conclude you can have it both ways all the time, and you can't. And the writers of the Bill of Rights knew that just as well as we do. So there are tensions that have simply got to be resolved, and the Constitution does not have a provision in there that tells you how you're going to resolve them.
So what's the public supposed to think, though? Take the Citizens United case, when for, as you said, decades, Congress could impose restrictions on corporations and their political speech, and then undoes those.
I'm going to take a partial pass on that, and I'll tell you I'll tell you why. It isn't because my views are supposed to be secret because I left the court. I mean, there's no question. Anybody who reads the opinions that I wrote when I was on the court on campaign finance will know perfectly well that I would have gone the other way in Citizens United. The reason I'm not going to go as far as I might do in answering that question is that you can't get into that subject and explore it fully without getting into politics.